All right, everybody. So, I haven't covered this guy in a long-ass time. It has been a while. A good long while. I don't even remember the last time I covered him, but I figured I might as well check back in after people started recommending me a new video he put out a couple days ago. Now, his content has gotten a lot worse, but I think it's important to give a disclaimer in regards to what this guy's politics are. So his name is Isaac Butterfield. He is a Australian YouTuber of quite substantial size. Now, unlike most conservative figures we cover, hey Ethan, unlike most conservative figures that we cover on this stream, who have this corporate lean of not really giving a fuck about like the working class or like the average person, and use like the culture war to kind of like get their more sinister agendas pushed forward and agreed upon by people. Isaac Butterfield, being an Australian, doesn't really buy into that same like super pro-market, like pseudo-libertarian, right-wing like vibe that a lot of American conservatives and like wannabe American conservatives, by that I mean like British right-wingers that like try to get into American politics with their content. He doesn't really have that same set of values that you would expect from your average American conservative on a lot of other issues outside of culture war shit. And I know that seems irrelevant to bring up to maybe a lot of you, but I don't know. I feel like it's relevant to bring up because it's valuable to know the values across the board of who you're covering. Now, I might be wrong. I haven't seen a lot of this guy's content, but that's the vibe I get. I've been told he's friends with Friendly Jordies and like some people who, in the Australian political sphere that are quite openly left-leaning. So that tells me he's probably not, outside of the culture war shit, he's probably not that conservative. I've gotten that impression from Australian fans as well. But god damn if his takes in the culture war aren't just awful. And he makes some of the most clickbait content as well. Woke trans TikToks. This is the one we're about to cover. The transphobic trans person. Okay. The fat gap. I hate Gen Z. This is serious. I'm being sued. I hope that fucking sucks. Don't sue YouTubers. That's cringe. Taylor Swift versus men. Disney is racist and sexist proof. Fat talk breaks the internet. Gorlock the Destroyer versus men. A lot of it's like fat hate stuff. A lot of internet like right-leaning comedians love their fat hate comedy. It's pretty much like the bread and butter of like what they've got. Anyway, a long time ago, I covered a YouTuber who is not that big. He doesn't have a very large platform. He's a trans guy whose username online is the offensive T-Slur, except he doesn't say T-Slur. Fuck, I messed up the delivery on that, but I did the Guardians of the Galaxy reference. Anyway, very like the definition of trans pick-me. I think Blair White might actually blush if she watched one video from this guy. And Isaac Butterfield, I guess, either collabed with, featured, or just made a video about the offensive T-slur and titled it The Transphobic Trans Person. Now, I don't know what kind of arguments we're going to get here. I'm going to take a wild guess and say we're going to get something along the lines of, everyone says these arguments are transphobic when I say them, but this trans person agrees. What are you going to call them transphobic? And I always hear these arguments, right? Like they'll bring out, say, a black conservative to argue that it is in fact the left who are racist and the right are not racist, and they'll say like, what are you gonna say? This black person, this black neo-Nazi is racist? Really? It's like, yeah, I will say they're racist, and they'll call you delusional for believing that. They'll just like laugh in response at the idea that somebody who's not white could be racist. But meanwhile, they themselves love using self-hating white person as an insult, or self-hating man as an insult, or self-hating insert group. Like the entire concept of like white soy males getting cucked by black men. Like, that entire meme that the right loves is centered around the idea of this perception that there are white people who hate themselves and are effectively racist against themselves. So they use the idea of self-hating, racist against themselves, their own race, white people, or sexist against themselves, their own gender, white men or men, all the time as an insult against the left. But if you suggest that a trans person could be transphobic, because believe it or not, someone's identity doesn't automatically determine their political values, and there can be people who are part of a group that have shitty values that are not within the best interest of that group because they're individuals, they're people, and people are stupid sometimes. Basically, what I'm imagining is we're going to hear that argument, and my response is going to be that. That's my guess. Let's find out. I obviously don't pre-watch this shit. I like to improv, so let's see it.
Don't do it. Ever. Don't do it in 2 years or in 10 years. Do not do it because it's stupid as...
An oxy...
This content's not going to be very, like, argument-filled. Like, there's not really going to be arguments so much as it's going to be, let's make jokes about how ridiculous it is that people disagree with me politically, is essentially like the way he makes his videos. He is a comedian. Now, to be fair, as much as he loves to do the whole I am a comedian who is being oppressed for being funny bit, he is actually one of the most funny right-wing figures I have encountered. There are a lot of right-wing figures like Steven Crowder, for example, who call themselves comedians, but then they forget that, like, you have to do funny. Isaac Butterfield, even while being wrong and stupid on a topic, is still funny. Because being funny doesn't have to mean you're right. You can be offensive and wrong and awful and still be funny. That is a thing. And Isaac Butterfield actually pulls it off. So, of all the insults that I could throw at him, and I'm not really one to throw just baseless insults generally, saying he's not funny is just not the one that I would use. He is actually quite funny.
Moron is a great word to impress all your friends with.
Now, it's possible that as an American, I just find Australian accents silly. So whenever somebody, like, angrily yells with an Australian accent, it kind of makes me a little giddy. Makes me a little happy. I don't know, it reminds me of Steve Irwin a little bit. You know, us Americans, we hear Australian accent, we think Outback commercials and Steve Irwin.
It puts together two contradictory terms, like a healthy fat person or an attractive lesbian. Two terms that just don't go together.
Okay. Not every joke is a hit, okay? Not every joke is a hit. But he's generally funny, I promise.
I'm talking about the real life lesbians, not the ones on the internet. Okay? But here's my new favorite oxymoron. A transphobic trans person. Yeah. May I introduce you to, this is this person's word, not my word, the offensive...
So the idea is that these are all... Oh my god. When I covered this guy, he had 16,000 subscribers back in, 2020? He's blown up to 137,000 in 2 years. Never forget that the biggest, easiest grift there is be minority and racist or bigoted towards said minority for content. It is such a easy grift. How? Well, you guys know YouTube doesn't care about, right-wing, anti-LGBT bigotry, right? For a very long time, if you put anything LGBT-related in your title, video, or tags, your whole video and channel would get demonetized. This was happening to tons of queer creators making videos about, coming out videos getting demonetized and blocked. But meanwhile, this is fine. This can get, over 100,000. YouTube sent this channel... you know what I just realized? Oh my god. Do you know what I just realized? YouTube would have sent this channel a silver play button. YouTube would have sent this channel a silver play button that says the offensive T-slur on it. And not only that, but there is a letter that will have been sent specifically, like signed to the offensive T-Slur with this signature from the CEO of YouTube. The same goes for those Taliban YouTube channels that have been getting really big. The Taliban sponsored YouTube channels that are blowing up, where it's like they are literally getting silver play buttons and personalized letters. So, because every YouTuber who gets a silver or gold play button, there's like a printed letter where the printed name, like where it's to, is like to your channel. And then there is pen where the CEO of YouTube presumably signatures the bottom of the letter with an individualized signature for every like 100K plus YouTuber whenever they get a play button. That sounds crazy, but to be fair, there's not that many people who have gotten that, so it's you know, somewhat reasonable. So remember, anytime Google does their little like, oh, Pride Month, Pride Month, Pride Month, they, like literally the CEO of YouTube wrote their signature on the congratulations on 100,000 subscribers letter and plaque to the channel called The Offensive T-Slur, whose entire channel is centered around making anti-trans content. Absolutely amazing times we live in. For those who don't know, the current CEO of YouTube, Neil Mohan, is a big-time conservative friend of Elon Musk and big-time crypto NFT guy. So, like, the actual higher management of YouTube is right-wing at the moment. Like, we're basically dealing with, like, a softer version of what's happening on Twitter on YouTube right now. Like, right now, Dylan Burns had to make a whole new YouTube channel and start migrating everything over because YouTube false striked his channel as pro-terrorism and demonetized him entirely. Mind you, this is a guy who works as a foreign policy advisor on political campaigns and does overseas journalism in like Ukraine and shit. They striked his channel falsely, repeatedly refused to give him monetization back, so he's had to make a new channel in order to be monetized on YouTube. Because they continuously uphold the false demonetization, no matter how many times he gets in contact with YouTube support on Twitter. So that's the state of YouTube that we're in right now.
That's their YouTube name. I like it. YouTube, I bleeped it, but please leave me alone. That's their name.
So I just found out that I made the thumbnail of a transphobic trans person's YouTube video.
I'm sorry to interrupt this video so early on, but Coda, I think this person's name is, he, him, she, her. Question, has there ever been a study looking directly at the correlation between the amount of piercings on one's face and their absolute fucking mentalness? Like, does piercings equal...
So I do feel this is worth like acknowledging as an argument from the right, because something that the right really loves to do, and it's actually a really effective strategy. Now, I myself, you take a look at me and you're going to notice something compared to the average lefty you might see online, is that I'm not exactly into the style that many lefties, young lefties on the internet that are on the more radical side, like TikTok, Tumblr, that type, like to sort of fall into, right? You know, you'll oftentimes see brightly colored hair. Here, SJW. Let's look up. Apparently, if you hold Shift and press Enter, you open a new tab when you search something up. So if we look up SJW, oh wow, we actually have. We actually have a 2016 like diagram here that looks like it was made with AI, but this was actually drawn by a human person back in 2014, 2015, whereabouts. Bleached hair. More common in females. Bleached hair to show everyone how special and different they are compared to white male scum. Cultural Marxism studies. Always into arts or social studies because they are unable to deal with anything in the STEM field due to the fact that logic is a patriarchy construct. You won't find two SJWs with different opinions on any subject, let alone politics. Absolutely. Nobody on the far left disagrees with each other. That's never happened. Mind you, 2015 right-wing meme. Many of these talking points have not followed in the future, but some of them have stuck around. 1% lean mass because muscles are symbolic of toxic male culture. A real man doesn't need to be in shape, but mostly because they never worked a day in their life. This is before Hassan was like the biggest lefty figure. Veteran keyboard warrior. SJWs never debate in real life unless there is nobody to contradict their conspiracy theories, so they tend to spend their time acting macho on the internet to compensate their lack of masculinity in real life. This is back when the left doesn't debate was like the gotcha. Trust fund. SJWs had a very privileged start in their life. This talking point still sticks around to a degree, but the right has much more sort of embraced this idea that being rich is to be like admired, being rich and disconnected from like the working class. Back then, people said SJWs are like wealthy trust fund babies out of touch. They still kind of do, but only in specific like settings and arguments. While now the talking point is lefties and communists, they're like poor college students, they're broke, and they just want to be rich. Leech off them until SJWs have no idea what earning means, so they want everything handed to them. Portable ball sack. Having failed in any department of male roles, they carry their masculinity as a weight and blame toxic masculine culture for their inability to get anything done in their life. Fat because obesity is not a medical condition. This is actually a talking point that we're seeing repeated now. Fat because obesity is not a medical condition, nor are STDs. They are a special feature to carry with pride. Also, being fit is a privilege to shoe. Or is a privilege shoe. Interesting. I don't remember when, like, STDs and, it was considered, like, a special feature by the SJWs, but I guess that was a talking point by the right back then. I don't even remember that during Gamergate. But, yeah, that's basically the 2015 era of, like, look how silly these lefties are. Now, the reality is that, there are a lot of people on the left who realize that fundamentally shame for just being whatever, not hurting anybody, just being like kind of like maybe silly or goofy looking, maybe you got a lot of piercings, funny haircut, like you're just doing your own thing. You don't care what the fuck anybody else thinks. The fact that so many people are sort of like victims or slaves to society's whims in that way, like you will dress this way, you will look this way, you will present yourself this way, or you will be rejected and shunned. The idea of that is something that they reject and they shun. They say, I don't give a fuck if society rejects and shuns me if I look this way. I'm going to present myself however I want to, right? That is how that is a fundamentally left-leaning idea, right? While a fundamentally conservative idea is the idea that you should be a slave to cringe. Anything that makes you feel embarrassed, to stand out, or feel socially ostracized or shamed for, regardless of whether or not it hurts anybody, you should fear away from. Be afraid of society shaming you. Be afraid of bullying. Live your life in constant fear of what the world thinks of you and succumb and bend to their whims, right? Meanwhile, a lot of people on the left say, fuck that. They dye their hair green. They get a shitload of piercings. They don't give a fuck if people don't like how they look because they are probably gay or LGBT or something and probably would hate them anyway, right? It's also a big part of, like, Isaac Butterfield says we should do a study on, like, the correlation between the amount of piercings somebody has and how mental they are, meaning, like, crazy in Australian. And it means crazy in English, for those of you guys that don't know. The actual fact is, the reason a lot of gay and trans people tend to have, like, a very wild way of presenting themselves is that their very identity, regardless of how they look, is already rejected by much of society, like certainly not the norm. So why should they give a shit about anything else not being the norm, pretty much? And on top of that, there's the extra bonus of it triggers people like this when by looking at you. It makes them uncomfortable. And so it's seen as almost like a way of sort of like alphaing down people like this in a weird way. The problem is, a lot of people, a lot of grillers and normies, the types of people who watch videos like this, when they see someone like that, they're not just victims of that societal shame themselves, they are also perpetrators of it. And they feel as though you're either part of the side getting laughed at and cringed at, or you are the one laughing. And they want to be part of the crowd that's laughing. And so, for a lot of people, simply seeing that insert lefty TikTok trans youth is on the side that's getting laughed at instantly makes them want to default to the side that is doing the laughing. Does that make sense? Does that sort of... like, I'm doing like a deep meta breakdown of this video. You know, I feel like that's the best way to respond to stuff like this, because if you just like engage with like the shit talking, you're kind of giving them exactly what they want. Like, it's meant, they say things that are offensive to minority groups to offend them, so that when they get offended, they'll freak out and get angry, and then when they get angry and freaked out, they end up just making themselves look a fool. And someone who's made themselves look a fool is perfect for clipping out of context and using for a YouTube video like this.
Equal crazy. That giant horn in the middle of your nose makes me question who you are as a human being, but also that's cultural appropriation, is it not? You're wearing exactly what this.
Once again, the right never fails to somehow find a way to claim that being left-wing or progressive is actually really racist, but the way they make the argument is itself quite racist. I don't believe there is any connection between nose piercing made to look cool and what's going on here. I don't believe there's a intentional connection there, and the fact that you evoked that connection, it's more racist than any cultural appropriation you could claim takes place. It looks painful. I'm sure it is.
Gentleman is wearing, and how dare you? You're not part of the same culture. That's shameful, disgusting. You should be cancelled. Anyway, before we go any further.
Who the fuck is canceling anyone over cultural appropriation anymore? Not to mention, like, the last case where this happened, I think, was that one girl that wore the, like, prom dress that was, like Asian-inspired prom dress of some kind. I don't remember exactly what. And, like, the fucking, like, a bunch of crazy-ass lefties online freaked out. And they were like 20% of the online left at most 20% of the online left, a very loud minority. And they freaked out at her. And I remember that not only I, but every left-wing figure of prominence with a platform called out the people doing that as insane and like ridiculous virtue signalers. Something that you'll notice is the obviously that meme I just read off a moment ago, but this video as well, at the very least imply, if not state, you will never see two SJWs with differing opinions. This idea that the left is a monolithic set of values, when in reality, the left is as full of infighting as it fucking gets, because people on the left, many of them, no matter how misguided and in some cases downright evil their values might be, there are some people on the left who have evil values. They generally actually believe these things and have some sincere level of belief in it, to the point where it drives them to get passionate, over the top, loud, crazy, and that's what the right kind of thrives on, because they don't really care about anything. Like this guy, the reason why right-wingers who do political content call themselves comedians is because nothing they talk about is serious enough to be treated with any, like, gravity. You know? They don't care about anything. There's nothing, like, so serious or, like, worth talking about that, like, actually matters, because it's all meant to be entertainment. Nothing, there's no stakes to anything they care about or talk about. It's all culture war, culture war, culture war, right? And so the big difference between the left and the right is the right gets to sort of always take this sort of disaffected approach unless they themselves forget not to get triggered by, like, a trans woman being on a beer can or something, while the left cares about these things and thus is typically always predisposed to getting more emotional and passionate about the topic being discussed, which is perfect for people like this to weaponize, because passion is cringe to a lot of young, online, disaffected normie types.
This is a great video. Stick around. This video is brought to you by the great people at Fume. Now, Cold Turkey's got a...
No shot. No shot. I've researched the Fume vapes, by the way. From what I can tell, they're a scam. Just like the Air Up water bottles that are getting exposed as, like, the next big thing that, like, YouTubers have been, like, peddling, and it's a total fucking scam. These Fume vapes, I looked into it because I want to quit vaping. Complete fucking scam. I have yet to find a review of these things that isn't sponsored that is good. Very much the same with the Air Up water bottles, which I looked into myself like a year and a half ago when I heard about them from a game theory video, and I was like, maybe this is good. This sounds like it could be an interesting thing. Maybe it'll help me keep hydrated more, because, like, the flavored water will just kind of, like, you know, add a little bit of spice to things, you know? I don't like adding random mixers and shit to water because I don't care for it. But like, I read it was just a scam, and yeah, Fume is a scam too. Yeah, this is literally a scam sponsor from what I have read, and I will not be surprised if we don't start seeing like exposed videos on this product, just like we've been seeing on what's it called, Air Up, the like smelling water bottles.
Favorite is crisp mint. Give that a try. It's very nice. Instead of electronics, Fume is.
I will say his taste and flavor, or his flavor taste, is actually quite good. I myself am a Cool Mint man. This is a Cool Mint vape right here. I like my crispy Cool Mint, my menthol type vapes. They're my my personal favorite flavor. I pretty much always gravitate towards mint.
Completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume has flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume is all natural, ladies and gentlemen. Delicious flavors. Fume comes with an...
I thought I skipped through the fucking ad. Okay, it goes all the way to this point is when the ad ends. All right.
The video that I'm gonna misgender her.
It's crazy how such big YouTubers just promote blatant scams these days. Sorry, I had to pop my jaw. It's most common among right-wing YouTubers like this guy, but yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty wild how, like, it's sort of a better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission kind of deal, where it's like, oh, we got a sponsorship offer? Well, let's not look into it so deep, because if we do, then there might be evidence that we knew they're a scam if they end up being bad, and if anything ends up being bad, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it and say we didn't know. Like, that's pretty much the policy a lot of these YouTubers operate on with this stuff.
Because she misgendered me.
Don't worry about misgendering me. I'm used to it. 97% of people who misgender me are your people.
Okay, this guy, the offensive T word, is shockingly disagreeing with a...
Oh, wow. Really? 90% of people who misgender this passing trans man YouTuber who makes right-wing content, 90% of the people that misgender him are lefties and like trans activists, quote unquote. For some reason, I believe that's probably not true. I have a pretty strong suspicion that's not true.
Now, the trans person, I was led to believe that didn't happen. Here am I thinking that all of the people in the LGBTQIA two-spirit community thinks exactly the same thing as each other.
Why would you ever think that? Who told you that outside? Like, what left-leaning person ever gave you that impression?
Gay men, the big, hairy, gay, masculine men, think exactly the same as the two-spirit American Indian people. Yeah, that's...
What? Who told you this?
Two people in the same group. Maybe we shouldn't group them all together. Is that a bit of an idea? I think we...
So, the big reason why I haven't covered this guy's content in a while is it's not really made to make arguments, you know? Like, there aren't any arguments being made. It's just sort of like, in a comedic way, granted, like an entertaining way. Not necessarily comedic, but like entertaining presentation way. It's just a lot of straw mans of left-wing positions, presented less like this is what the left actually believes, and more like this is a sort of disaffected, sarcastic, satire parody, joking about the kind of stuff the left would believe with how crazy what they do believe is, right? So he doesn't have to grapple with any actual arguments or beliefs. He can kind of just make fun of ideas that are sort of satirical, over-the-top things the left would believe, is kind of the vibe I'm getting from his content.
We might have been lied to that they all agree on the same things, and unfortunately, a lot of them are too scared to speak out. And I think throughout this video, we'll find out why.
So, well, I literally just read to you guys a 2014 era meme from the, like, Internet Gamergate era of like, the SJWs, they all think the same. You'll never find two that think differently. Meanwhile, actually, it turns out it's the left who has suppressed the wrong-thinking LGBT people, and they're scared to speak out. Very good. It's very fun looking at, like, the equivalent propaganda for the right from years ago and seeing how clearly it doesn't, like, it's not consistent with today's right-wing propaganda because they've had to switch up the narrative to sort of fit with, like, today's times. Like, back then, for example, the argument was let devs make the games they want to make because primarily at the time, it was left-wing game journalists criticizing already existing popular games for not being woke enough. But now it's completely changed up to be the right-wing gaming sphere losing their mind about every new popular release, calling it woke, or if it's successful enough, trying to co-opt it and saying, well, it's actually anti-woke because of, and then a bunch of made-up bullshit.
Because the community fucking comes after him hard, and not in a good way.
So go ahead, explain what I didn't understand.
The video that she posted, of mine, I'm clearly being
Well, this person's definitely misgendering. Well, fuck them.
facetious.
Hey,
Fuck Coda, I guess.
he is she, and she is he. Gotcha. Simple.
And she thinks I'm being serious. Being transgender makes you delusional because I'm convinced that I pass right now, but I know that I don't.
I low-key respect
Jesus Christ, I fucking hate, like, I do think that, like, TikTok is probably, like China. China is almost certainly, tuning the TikTok algorithm to be as divisive as possible in America. Because there's no way in hell that, like, a random, like, I'm gonna guess 15-year-old, non-binary, like, masculine, like, trans mask person just posting, like, self-deprecating humor in TikTok clips should be getting the amount of attention that it's getting. You know? Like, there's no way TikTok hasn't tuned the algorithm to cause as much, like, discourse on American TikTok as possible. That kind of post should not be getting this much attention. That's a random 15-year-old, like, trans mask, like, TikTok kid just doing self-deprecating humor. Why is it getting this much attention? Why does anybody care?
this because she's aware of the truth. And she's right, a lot of transgender people are delusional, and that's also one of the reasons why I don't call myself a transgender person, but I like to call myself a transsexual person.
I feel like this needs a whole lot of explaining. The Coda person made a facetious video suggesting that they would pass, meaning they look like a man, when everybody can obviously see that they don't. At all. Not even slightly. And the offensive
Well, that was the joke the Coda person made.
T-word that I still don't know if I can say, called them out on it, right? And now they're angry at that person calling them out.
I like how Isaac Butterfield is, like, his whole thing is about making content, like, especially lately, against fat people and trans people, and talking about how they're not a real minority group, they're crazy, they're delusional, and they're wild. And meanwhile, like, he's too scared to say the T-slur, because he recognizes it's a slur that is not socially acceptable, and, like, it won't get you banned on YouTube. Like, there's literally a over 100,000 sub YouTube channel with the T-slur in its name. YouTube endorses the channel. They sent a play button and a signed letter from the CEO. They endorse transphobia. So, like, why are you scared to say it? Do you not want to offend trans people? Are you afraid to drop that slur? Are you afraid to become one of those YouTubers that just goes that far, balls deep? Friendly Jordies is friends with Isaac Butterfield, and Friendly Jordies has a podcast where he went mask off as a tanky supporting China. Ooh. Yeah, like, the Australian left is very weird. It is quite weird. Australian politics is a cesspool of cringe. The left and right in Australia just seem like they kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think the only place where it's actually reasonable to be a centrist would be in Australia. Like, in terms of, like, the political landscape there. I don't even know what the fuck is going on. Like, the people there that are prominent in left-wing fucking weird with their politics. The people that are prominent in right-wing are fucking weird with their politics. It's like, it's like everyone in Australia, regardless of their political leanings, their like, political compass test results would just show the, like, the yin and yang symbol, you know? Like the balance. Like, this person, like, yeah, they believe in trans rights and worker rights, and they also support China and are also in favor of, like, like, no government control of the market or something. I don't know. And then you've got another one who's like, very against trans and gay people, really loves free healthcare and is anti-military spending and wants, like, yeah, it's very bizarre, Australian politics.
Because they're obviously not a man, or they don't look like one. Are we all following?
How many outrage videos have you seen of people being like, oh, woke liberal says cringe thing, and then you watch the video and the woke liberal is clearly being sarcastic?
Well, that's the one that we literally just watched. Isaac Butterfield and the offensive Slur here both clearly don't pick up on it, but the video clip... Can I play the video clip again? Is it after the sponsor? Here, I guess.
He thinks I'm being serious. Being transgender makes you delusional because I'm convinced that I pass right now, but I know that I don't.
I low-key respect.
That's the joke. They played the whole thing in context. Well, not in context necessarily, but with enough context that you should be able to tell it's sarcastic. I don't think this is like a walking it back thing. When they go on to say sarcasm.
Thing, and then you watch the video and the woke liberal is clearly being sarcastic.
I've seen this happen so many times where right-wingers do this to people, yeah. Like, they're completely right here. Like, that is exactly what we just witnessed. They said they said a self-deprecating, sarcastic joke in the first clip. They said, "Oh, are you saying you think you pass? You clearly don't." And then he makes a video in response like, "Guys, I know this is like the 500th time a left-leaning person has made a sarcastic joke on TikTok, and you guys clip it and pretend like they were being serious." I mean, still, I don't like this Coda person because he seems to have like intentionally gone out of his way to misgender the offensive Slur. And as much as, you know, I don't have much love in my heart for this young man. I will say that misgendering trans people because you don't like them, not good. I think like I feel like we kind of dealt with this sort of discourse when the whole Christian thing happened. Like if you wouldn't call, I don't know, like a black pedophile the N-word and then justify it because, well, he's a pedophile, he hurt children, like, it should be okay to call him whatever. He doesn't deserve my respect. Like, if you would say that and defend it that same way, then I guess I could call you consistent. But I have a feeling most people would not be willing to go that far. So that indicates to me there is a double standard with them when it comes to trans people. That their agreement to validate a trans person's identity is not on the fundamental principle they view trans people's identities as valid, but rather that they will sort of bite their tongue and sort of give in and say, sure, yeah, you're a woman, your pronouns are she, her, sure, and like play along out of a sort of mutual respect of some kind, rather than genuinely seeing trans identities as being valid. They're essentially pretending to be not transphobic. And so when people indicate that they're like validating a trans person's identity as conditional, I see it much the same way that I would see someone saying they're not racist, but they'll call a black person who has done something objectively bad a racial slur, and it's fine because that black person doesn't deserve respect. And it's like, but that's not how slurs and racism or bigotry of any kind works. So you get what I'm saying here, right? You're picking up what I'm putting down? Holy shit, it's been 40 minutes I've been covering this, and we're 5 minutes in. Does this video start getting interesting at any point? We get more men cuddling.
Points. I mean, look at Blair White or Buck Angel. They are people who have been excommunicated in many different circumstances.
Blair White and Buck Angel, famously good people. You know, I'm pretty sure Blair White has literally fucked Alex Jones. At the very least, they're friends. I didn't expect, like, Isaac Butterfield to say, you see, not all trans people are crazy. Blair White, for example, a good friend of Alex Jones, who is currently losing everything he has because he claimed a bunch of dead children who were murdered in a school shooting were crisis actors and incited harassment towards their families and the surviving children. You know, she doesn't agree with these crazy lefties. Not all of these trans people are crazy.
Circumstances because of their opinions on certain subjects. That's just really fucking crazy. That they're so religious in their thought, that doctrine rules their lives so much that they would take someone who's experiencing life exactly or very similarly.
Isaac, you are Australian. You don't say crazy. You say mental. You say that's fucking mental, not crazy. Thank you very much.
To them, and just say, you're not a part of our group anymore, go away. It's like fucking high school. To give you an example of the religious doctrine that exists in the LGBTQIA plus community, if you say you're a man, then you're a man. If you say you're a woman, then you're a woman. And if you've lived 30 years as a woman or as a man and now are the opposite gender, then you've always been that gender, even when you had babies or produced sperm or whatever. That's...
Does anybody actually say that? Like, the argument from the trans movement is that when somebody, let's say they've lived 30 years of their lives with gender dysphoria, they finally come out as trans and start transitioning, it's less so that they've always been a woman, and let's say trans woman in this case, it's less so that they've always been a woman. I don't generally hear people say that as like a descriptive statement. It's more so used as a supportive statement, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, people who support the trans community and people who support who are trans themselves don't say, oh, I've always been like a trans woman. That's not what or I've always been a trans man. They don't say that. It's more so something like, I've always been one deep down, or I've always known I was one deep down, or I should be. Like, it's always that there was always a present knowledge of their true selves. This is a commonly repeated thing for many trans people. And so many times that is sort of in a supportive manner reworded to say, you were always a woman, you were always a man, sort of buried inside of a different body. It might also be worded that way. Yeah. I will say there's just something so fucking, like, just weird to me. Like, not weird to me, but disgusting to me how these people just, like, find random clips of trans people who make TikToks that aren't even, like, these aren't TikToks made to attack any right-wing figures or anything. They're just trans people making TikToks, but because they look, like, unconventional, like, the whole point of it is, here is some B-roll that is meant to play where you're supposed to look at these people and be disgusted. And because you are disgusted by these people, you are supposed to hate them. Earlier today, I saw a meme from one of the Nazi accounts on Twitter that I think very well illustrates this thought process, because regardless of, like, I don't think Isaac Butterfield's a Nazi by any means, but Isaac Butterfield and his sort of dislike for LGBT people is absolutely like his dislike is rooted in the same thing that, like, the reasons why Nazis dislike trans people, for example. Let me see if I can find the post. It's going to be impossible to find. But it was about the use of the term homophobia. We're just calling it aphobia. Let me see if it comes up. Well, nope, I've scrolled for too long. It's not going to come up. I love the modern internet where you can't find anything and it becomes gone after 5 seconds. Anyway, I'll just describe the post to you, and you guys will probably be able to visualize a million posts just like it. Basically, far-right account, one of the billions that are getting boosted by Elon right now, goes on, to post this caption. It's like, quotes, phobia. It's funny to me that these people still think we're afraid of them. It's not fear, it's disgust. And then the image captioned with it is a picture of, like, a Warhammer Space Marine covered in blood and holding a gun. Like, the implication being that, like, the Space Marine just got finished slaughtering, like, a bunch of degenerates, right? And you know, it's a genocide meme, right? They're talking about how they want to, like, genocide things, the groups of people that the left considers you to be a phobe if you are against, right? And so, like, fundamentally, the ideas behind this are that you are meant to be disgusted by that which is different, and that disgust should make you hate that which is different, and that hate should make you want to kill that which is different. And I know that's like a massive leap to make from like a dumb, funny, like comedy Australian YouTubers videos, but like fundamentally, these ideas, the bigotry that is inherent to them, kind of go back to a deep anchored point. And of course, with the whole offensive T-Slur person's deal, like it's just a grift. I literally covered this person back when they had less than 20,000 subs. The grift was far more transparent back then because they were, a lot less, he was a lot worse at doing the whole, like, appealing to the right-wing crowd without clearly pandering. And so he's basically doing the right-wing equivalent to what the right claims woke Hollywood is doing to, like, pander to minorities or whatever.